died.
I know.
I didn't realize they serve subpoenas for you. I don't know.
Good evening. I am District Secretary Nancy Gamble Hatfield. It's Tuesday, January 21st, 2014, and this is a regular meeting of the Dublin San Ramon Services District Board of Directors. Presiding this evening is Georgine von Heer-Leopold. Thank you, Nancy. Call the meeting to order. Would you please join me in the pledge to our flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nancy, roll call. Director Benson. Here. Director Halkett.
Here.
Director Howard.
Here.
Vice President Duarte.
Here.
President von Heer-Leopold. Here. Thank you. Any special announcements or activities?
No, nothing tonight other than I'd like to, for your record, Allison Kaczynski is in the audience. She's the lead of Cassidy. She's here to for the closed session item on regulation. So you probably haven't met her. I know a couple of you got introduced. You guys got a little late, so I'm sorry you didn't. But she's here for that.
Okay. Any public comment? No members of the public present. Item number 6, reports. Report by the General Manager.
Yes, President von Heer-Leopold, members of the board, a couple of few things for you tonight, sort of in chronological order. On January 1st of 2014, the district adjusted in accordance with direction that you provided, adjusted our water rates by the CPI change for 2013 and 2014. That adopting resolution for the board, which you have an excerpt from in front of you, required us to do three things. Post those rates on our website. We've done that. Notify the customers under October and November billing. We've done that. And the third thing was to notify the board of directors of the new change, and that's what I'm doing. Here with this announcement, you'll see the actual rates, and you have 2013 and 2014 rates in the attachment here for comparison. If you haven't been able to do the mental arithmetic, our rates adjusted 2.56%. The Zone 7 adjustment was, and this is very close, 2.65%. So there's a couple of numbers transposed. Those are not additive. Those are different aspects of the rate. So the melded rate went up something between those rather than the sum of those two. So just FYI for you on that. The second thing I have before you, and as you all know by now, is that last week, Friday, January 17th, Governor Jerry Brown declared an emergency in the state of California related to the water shortage situation. I have a copy of the proclamation of the state of emergency in front of you. This is one of those, it's not worth a picture is worth 1,000 words, but a written document will save me 5 minutes worth of explanation. So there it is in front of you. No surprises on that, but just FYI so you know where we're heading. The Water Committee will begin to kick around this issue in a very high-level way on Thursday, the 23rd, a couple of days from now. Zone 7 is holding a special board meeting on the 29th, the following Thursday, to talk about things. We'll take our cue from what they decide to do as they put the governor's proclamation kind of through the filter of local events, local conditions. And then we're going to, we think we're going to be ready to have something before the board on February 4th of this year. It probably won't be the be-all and end-all. It'll be this. Reacting to this emergency will probably be take a series of actions or briefings for the board. And the first one will be some of the easier things to do. We don't feel we need to ask you to take some of the more draconian or painful measures until a little bit later in the year until we really see what the water situation is going to be involved into. But we'll start that discussion with you on the 4th. FYI for you, I've asked Dan Gallagher to head up a team of staff that's coordinated all the different things that we may need to do in response to this. If you think about it, there's operational things, there's engineering things, there's financial things, and there's public outreach. So there's a lot of elements that need to be coordinated. I've asked Dan to head our, I'm going to call it, Dan, by the way, I changed the name a little bit, our SIP Our Water team. Instead of Gulp Our Water, SIP Our Waters. Shortage implementation plan for our water. So he's going to head that up among staff, and we'll see where that goes. Next week, Thursday, I announced this previously, Secretary John Laird will be addressing citizens and elected officials from the City of Dublin at 6 o'clock over in the Dublin City Council chambers. You will be talking about the California Water Action Plan, but in light of the Governor's declaration of emergency, I don't know how he's going to avoid talking about the drought situation and declaration of emergency, so I imagine he will do that. That meeting is scheduled for 6 o'clock. We're going to agendize that out of an overabundance of caution. We're going to agendize that as also as a DSRSD board meeting in the event that there's more than four or more of you there, so that you could at least talk about it, or if anybody wanted to ask you any questions, they could certainly do that. In order to not impinge on Secretary Laird's presentation, we're actually going to call a DSRSD board meeting to order at about 5:45. We'll have somebody there to take roll, call it to order. Here you have to call the public time. So we'll do that, and that'll clear us out of the way, and then Secretary Laird can begin his presentation at 6 o'clock.
Is no one else
We
seen it?
We don't know. I got a very mixed response to the question. Some of the agencies think it's a great idea, are going to do it. Some agencies are thinking about it. A couple agencies are saying, no way, no how, we're not going to do it. So I have no idea what's going to happen. But we figure, out of an abundance of caution, we think it's the appropriate thing to do. And in the event you all wanted to discuss anything, it's just a safe thing to do. What I was going to say is we've heard at this point from two of you, although Director Benson, I think I heard before the meeting you were planning to attend as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that'll be three of you at least that will be there. Get there early. Number one, I'd like to get you there at 5:45 so we can get some of these preliminaries out of the way. But more importantly, this is shaping up to be a pretty hot ticket according to Sue. The seating is first come, first served. This is an open meeting for the public. This is not a briefing for dignitaries around the Tri-Valley, although there's a certain value for this. So, the seating is first come, first served, so come on down early. We actually have provisions for overflow into the regional room with closed circuit television into there if the crowd gets larger than 125 people, I think is what the council chambers see. So we'll see how all this is coming together. It should be a pretty important night given events. And the last thing I would note for the record is that your agenda, you should be working off the revised agenda, and the revision is really in section number 11, closed session. The revision was just to correct a clerical error on the original agenda, having all closed session reference to it. So you revised that, you should be working off the one that says revised. And then the other thing you would note is we did include the special board meeting of January 3rd. That's about all I have to say on that. We haven't had any correspondence to or from the board since your last board meeting.
Okay. Committee reports. Any of these committees wish to add to anything that hasn't covered in the minutes or needs expanding on? Okay, seeing none. Is the agenda ordered okay? I assume it is. Normal. Okay, approval, item number 7, approval minutes of the regular meeting of January 7th.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of January 7th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. Item number 8, consent calendar. These are items that are typically handled with one motion. However, any member of the board or the public can pull an item for further discussion. A and B. Okay. All right, do I hear a motion for item C?
I move for approval of item 8C.
Second.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve item 8C. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. Okay, let's go to 8A. Mr. Dorr.
We could go to 8B. I just had a quick question on B.
Okay.
We could vote on that. Michelle, I read through the attachment, but I saw that a lot of the salaries were already in place as stated in the schedule. But it also made reference to a pay increase as of the 1st of 2014. Did that apply for some or all of the positions?
Actually, yes, for those who have in their contract as of 1/1, the salary, the CPI increases went into effect then. For the other contracts, or MOUs, I believe the date is, I want to say December 23rd was the first of their implemented CPI increase, so we noted that date.
And could you give me the range of increases?
The increases were based on CPI change from October to the previous year, October, and I believe it this year was 1.18%.
Yeah, sounds about
That sounds right.
Yeah, sounds about it. And I would also note, Lisa, just for the record, all the positions Michelle noted were subject to it. The general manager has a contract that runs on a fiscal year basis, so there's no adjustment.
I do have one question. It says hourly pay rate, it really should be, is that monthly? On the chart? It says hourly at the top, and you'll note it's monthly.
We have monthly and hourly presented. Monthly is the middle major block. There's 5 steps A through E, and hourly is the far right.
No, I said, take a look at, it says you make $10,000 an hour.
Which
Page
On
3
page
of 3.
3 of 3. If you look at the hourly rates, they're all in monthly, or they're all in weekly, it looks like,
Oh, these are the bi-weekly ones.
bi-weekly.
Yeah, it should say hourly.
It should say bi-weekly, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Page 3 of 3. Look at the far right-hand column. Far right-hand.
It says
column.
it's on all 3
Hourly.
pages.
It's really,
It says hourly.
that says hourly.
Yeah, but it is hourly here.
But it is
It is
hourly.
hourly here.
Page 1
Oh,
of
yeah,
1,
there
it
it
is
is.
in fact hourly, because those are hourly
Okay.
employees, not exempt. For page 2,
It's correct. You have one
is
zero.
middle it
correct,
says
the heading is
bi-weekly.
correct, but it
Yeah.
breaks
Yeah.
midway down page 2, and on page 3, the far right 3 columns should say bi-monthly.
Right. Bi-weekly.
Okay.
Any more questions? on
Bi-weekly.
these?
Bi-weekly.
Any more questions on these?
It's like, well, we make $10,000 an hour.
Yeah, well, that job.
That would be legal counsel.
I know.
I work
Forever.
for 15,000 an hour, just so you know.
I'll move to
Okay.
You may want to do your motion to note the change to the heading on that one page.
Yeah.
This is,
move to approve item 8B with the change on the heading of that column.
Okay.
because this is a statutory requirement, right?
Is there a
This is
second?
statutory required.
Is there a second?
I think that's it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve item 8B with the correction of the heading on page 3, change from hourly to biweekly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 8C. I'm sorry, 8A.
If I could ask Madura to maybe expand a little bit on the scope of the change. I see an over, maybe 12, 13% increase in the contract, which is substantial given that it's already a $750,000 original contract. And I have some very specific questions on the breakdown of amendment number 1 spreadsheet that you gave me. So first of all, if you could talk about, I'm looking at the first summary where as originally scoped 2 weeks, as revised 3 more weeks for the field group. Is that correct?
That's correct. Judy Saville is the project manager for that project, and I've actually brought her in here so that we can answer detailed questions about that project. So Judy, if you can help me out here and answer some of these questions.
What's your first one?
Well, as the, I'm looking at how you generated $115,000 of additional proposed expense. I read this correctly, unexpected field conditions and variations to minimize bid uncertainty. So you're tightening up the scope of work that you're going to be presenting to people who are going to be bidding on this.
So there's two parts to this amendment to the task order for design. Part of it is related to a communication study, and part of it is related to the design drawings.
Okay.
And so I believe you referred to the 3 weeks versus 2 weeks. So for the communication study, their scope was to do a paper study and then also go out and do field verification. We expanded sort of in agreement with us, we expanded looking at more radio frequencies and shooting to more, and then they also, in addition to looking at more radio frequencies, we also looked at shooting to different locations to try to get the optimum sort of communications network set up. And then we also, since part of the communication network is going to be sort of a ring, it's hard to explain, so you have all the little satellite sites out there, all little pump stations, and they will kind of go into a centralized ring, and then that goes to the wastewater plant. And then we wanted to make sure, since that's the lowest point in the system, how high will we need to put an antenna at the plant to get that signal back there. So we had to spend more time. We had an extra week of a crew out there with the truck. They had a boom truck with an antenna, and they had a consultant, and they were trying different radios and shooting and checking the signal to noise and the frequencies. So that took more time.
That part sounded very reasonable.
Okay.
But when you come over to developing the design drawings.
And on the development of the design drawings, so what they did initially in their scope, they gave me, this is the number of drawings we anticipate doing as part of the design. And they anticipated that every pump station would talk to one reservoir, they made some assumptions, right, because they weren't fully aware of every part of our system. So they made an assumption like every pump station would talk to one reservoir, and there would be certain typical drawings that they could use. So they'll do so many pump stations would be different enough that they need their own drawings. But then after they got out there and looked at all the sites, they felt that in order to fully show the contractor what they would need to do, that it'd be best to do a drawing for each individual site. So they use less typical drawings and they do more drawings. In addition to that, we've sort of expanded, so the level of detail, those aren't process and instrumentation diagrams. So we added things like, okay, we want more information on those. We want to add pipe diameters, which which is more of a mechanical drawing thing, but the electrical guys wanted to know what size pipe they were putting a monitor on or a meter on. So, we expanded the scope on the consultant for more drawings and sort of the level of detail for those drawings. And the hope is that in spending the money now in design, that will be very clear and we'll have less issues to resolve when it comes to construction. And I share your concern that this is a big change order right up front, because we haven't gotten that far down the road. I'll be watching them. This consultant has pretty reasonable rates compared to other ones we worked with. They seem to be pretty organized and doing a good job, but it is concerning. I agree that it's a pretty large change.
Well, you'll have to understand my background, which I'm not going to go into, but when an engineering consulting firm is hired to develop design specifications and drawings, I would expect the same level of response from the design team as I would from the contractor. And I'm just curious as to why you had to expand what you thought was necessary to provide a biddable set of documents after the fact, and why you didn't include that in your original proposal.
Judy, if I could, maybe to get the conversation focused a little bit. If you look at page 2 of 3, there's a table that looks at the number of design drawings as originally scoped and as revised. So if you kind of go down and compare those, you'll see that 2 of the extra drawings are related to redesign of the treatment plant server rooms, which we haven't talked about yet. That's another element that's sort of third, but there's 2 drawings associated with that.
There's also 2 drawings for power to res 3A, which was
Yeah, well,
also.
it says 1 drawing in this one. 1 drawing for power to res 3A, which we just talked about. And the rest of them are pretty nominal changes. The big change is on the PMID diagrams. The third one from the bottom is going from 15 to 30. That's 35 of a total of 44. And Judy, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's related to the statement you made in the summary and rec that the assumption was made that the field operations, existing field operations facilities, PMID diagrams were very similar to each other. And one could be changed and the effect would be changing the other ones. We found out that wasn't the case. These facilities, these pump stations remotely, were built over a period of 15 years or so. Different SCADA programmers for each one. There were significant differences. So where we thought maybe there was only 1 or 2 PIDs that needed to be changed or some nominal number, there are a lot of them. Almost every pump station hasn't changed, so that's allowed us to standardize.
Well, that list of drawings that increased that the change is inconsequential, I think. I mean, that's very, very reasonable, very acceptable. But when you come to 35 drawings and then you look at the hours expended to develop that, my question is on specifically process and instrumentation diagrams at 35 sheets. You have 35 hours for the project manager. You have 175 hours for the SCADA engineer, and the same amount of hours for the drafting technician. So you're telling me that the SCADA engineer is going to spend the same amount of time on those drawings as the drafter? That doesn't ring right to me.
I don't know that that's that uncommon.
So, quick question, so I can get an idea of the scale. I know it's not bid yet, it's not even close to being bid yet, but what number are we carrying for the overall project?
The overall project is 700 and, let's make it. 798 to 913 now.
So we're looking at, what we're looking at.
It's a change order of 115,000.
Right, at the original, so the design to the total then is about, what's the total design right now after the change order?
913.
For the design or for the actual implementation?
For the design.
All right, and then, yeah, so by way of scale, what budget are we carrying in the CIP for implementation of this?
We're close to 3 million.
Yeah. And all I'm saying, I agree, 115 is an eye-popping number too, but in the scale of the project, what I try to do is, I'm not an engineer like you, but I try to see how the overall design budget jives with the overall project.
No argument there. I'm looking at this, as you know, as a contractor.
No, I understand.
And I'm having an expanded scope in detail on your bid documents is the best money we'll ever spend, so that we don't have the same amount, the same types of change orders out in the field. But I really don't understand how the project engineer, the SCADA engineer, is going to spend the same amount of time involved in the drawing, in the design of the drawing.
That the drafter would spend more or spend less?
Well, I think they would spend less. I mean, who's providing the data to the CAD operator? That's
The design engineer.
So he's doing the exact same amount of time all the way through as the CAD engineer.
Yeah, and I believe this is through all the way through the design. So we do, this project has a 50%, 90%, and 100% design. So if there's any changes all the way through, so this is ours to do all these sheets all the way through the design. So they'll do the first drawing, we'll get it 50%. If there's any markups from our staff, that'll have to go through, So if you look at if there's 35 drawings, 175, you're looking about 5 hours per for the drafter and 5 hours for the design engineer. If I'm just doing rough math, not even, right? Less than 4.5 hours. So I'm having them spend 4.5 hours per drawing for the design engineer and for the drafter. And I think to set up a sheet and to get your title block and to make any changes along the way, they're obviously trying to make sure they're going to give me a number that they won't have to come back and ask for more again. But I don't think that's unreasonable, 4.5 hours for a drawing.
No, it isn't. If you were doing it by hand, but these are on CAD templates. And when the note comes from the SCADA engineer over to the CAD person, they can implement those changes in a lot less time than 5.5 hours. But I'm not going to argue about 5.5 hours. I just don't understand how the principal and the technician are going to be spending the same exact amount of time. Now, in the grand scheme of things, the SCADA engineer is more important. If his 31,000 is valid, I don't know. I'm really not comfortable with those two amounts in this. Every project I've ever been involved with engineering design, there's never going to be the same amount of time spent by the principal or the project engineer, let's call it that title, the SCADA engineer, as the person who's manipulating the CAD template. The template's done one time. Your title block, everything is 5 minutes.
These are unique drawings, and you need drawing for each pump station. It's a different P&ID for each pump station. So
Okay.
this isn't a typical. That's sort of why we're adding these drawings.
Judy, is this a lump sum contract or a T&M contract?
It's T&M. They would only charge. I get invoices, and they only charge the hours they
So
work.
this is a guaranteed max contract.
This is max.
Okay. Just ask that you keep an eye on it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on 8A?
I move for approval.
Is there a question?
No, he moved and I'll second it, and then just a comment, and I'm glad we had the discussion, and also we've had a history of interesting SCADA projects, even though these are eye-popping numbers, and the big 3 million number hasn't even come to us yet. We really, I'm glad we're going to do this all together and at once. What's killed us in the past is our SCADA has grown organically, and it's very difficult. So do it right, watch the numbers, watch those invoices really carefully.
For Nancy's information, she was looking at me. Who made the motion? Who seconded it?
I made the motion and second.
Okay, so moved and seconded that we approve item 8A. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously carried. Okay, move to item 9, board business. There is none. Item 10, board member items. Let's start with you, Janet. Any board member items?
Nothing special here.
Ed? Rich?
Negative.
No.
Nothing.
Okay, well then I'm going to bore you with all of mine. First of all, we had a special districts chapter meeting for Alameda County last week. Our speaker was the new executive director from the Alameda County Resource Conservation District, and it was really rather interesting. I assumed, which we all know how that gets you in trouble, that this was another government agency, and it's really not. There's no regulatory oversight of it. Things that you do through it, you pay for. Participation with the Resource Conservation District is voluntary. They're trying to, some of the things they're trying to do is acquire some more open space. Right now, they've got about 20% of it in vineyards. They're also looking to restore some livestock ponds. They've been working with some of the ranchers to get those back up, which in this drought has not been easy. Let's see. had a long discussion about the healthcare district. That was on our review, and there's still an issue as with Eden, how they are providing services out here, and yet we're not within their sphere. Mona's been directed to kind of come back with a little bit more definition of that, and I'm sure the city of Dublin's looking at it, because apparently they have an office that's providing services of some kind out here in Dublin. They don't operate the hospital. All they do is health care, which of course we know can be a broad base of things that they're providing, but in any event, they're going to continue to look like that. East Bay Economic Alliance, Doug Seiden gave a report. They're still looking about how to make our area more sustainable. That's an ongoing challenge. I don't think we're ever going to have an answer to that. Let's see, our annual banquet is March 27th. We have about $4,000 in the bank, and we all should have received our dues email. So we should be upgraded. We also corrected the minutes, so it showed that you had attended. Apparently people either aren't signing in, or somebody's not reading the sign-in, or can't read the sign. Anyway, Ed and a couple of other people were left off the minutes for the last couple of meetings. And as you know, they could be important. So that was that meeting. And then last week was also CASA, and down in Indian Wells at the Renaissance. Fortunately, we're not going back there next year. I mean, one of the biggest reasons was the facility's much too large, and you can't get a shuttle from the airport to the facility. There's tons of walking, and it doesn't seem like they can coordinate putting the meeting rooms and the attendees in the same tower. So there's only one elevator in the building. It's just not been a good place to host a conference. You need a map, literally, you need a map. People were getting lost going to their rooms. So anyway, it's going to be at the Hilton next year. The first gentleman that started out, and it was kind of neat, as you know, I serve on the program committee, although I was not responsible for this particular speaker, but he started it out on such a high note. He was the general manager of DC Water, and he was like a cheerleader. First of all, he's the general manager, mind you, and they serve 600,000 people as residents, and more people, of course, in the daytime. And he came to the meeting in a uniform. And he said the reason he does that is because when he goes out in the field, he wants his staff to recognize he's part of the crew, he's part of the solution. But he flew in that way. And the whole time he was completely animated and discussing all of the wonderful things we do and how proud we should be, and we should be standing up talking about how we're the most important agency in their lives because we protect them from all these diseases that are waterborne. So it was fun listening to him, and he got us off on a good start. There were a lot of good speakers this time. Everybody is, looking to the future. We're no longer biosolids, like we talked about. It started out as sludge, and I don't know what it was before that. Maybe I don't want to know, but started out as sludge, went to biosolids, and now we're a recoverable resource. And everybody is focusing everything in that direction, and all the speakers were talking in that direction. So I really enjoyed it, other than the fact that, you need a scooter to get back to your room after a meeting. And I think that, one more. We also had a Bay Area Biosolids meeting during the convention, and we actually are doing quite well. We have an executive director now in Paul Kelly, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and he was quite proud to pass out these pins. There are 3 demonstration projects in the works. And we're still looking for the big one, but there's 3 demonstration projects. And I think it was a good update. It sort of looked like finally we're doing something. You know, it's been so long with just studying it and trying to find the contractor and the partner who could borrow the most money and all the other things, and finally we're doing something. So it was very positive. The meeting was quite full and animated, and a good meeting. I think that's all. Do you have anything to add? You were there.
No, it was a good conference. The only thing I do is just build on a comment you made, Georgine, about the Bay Area Biosolids project. Dave and I have been concerned about that project for a while. We kind of thought it got stuck at top dead center, you know, and we go to a meeting every other month and do the same things. And so I know Dave and I and a couple other managers pushed real hard to bring an executive director. And once we got San Jose and San Francisco to sign on to the project, we had a critical mass of funding to be able to do that, at least for a couple of years while we were doing it. I think Paul is coming through on that. He's kind of moving the project along. That was the first meeting in a while where I sensed that we're starting to make progress towards our vision, rather than just sort of, talking about what we're hoping to be able to do.
Yeah, I felt that way too, and it just seemed as if everybody was kind of relieved that we finally appeared to be doing something other than meeting. So, okay. At this time, we'll go into closed session while this board meeting will continue. This broadcast will be stopped at this time because it is anticipated there will be no report from our closed session. There is a report will be announced at open session at the end of the meeting. If you're interested in what is reported out, you may contact the district secretary during regular business hours for that information. Thank you very much.
And if I may add, the attendees at the closed session per the revised agenda were as indicated